Discipline can also be innate because it's your goal. It's not the 80s anymore.
Patrick Allen is a legendary figure whose influence has shaped the global music and entertainment industry for over 3 decades. From dancing alongside Michael Jackson to founding the iconic Music Box Live, Patrick's story is one of a relentless passion, extraordinary talent, and cultural impact.
I tell my artists now, listen, there's a new dawn of a new day. The magnifying glass is on Hollywood. Hollywood is no more. The music business is no more. Have respect for yourself. Don't sell your soul. Don't give them everything that they want.
A warm welcome to the One Club. For all you One Club members and you One Club curious. I'm Afsal, the new shiny head of membership at One Club. If this was a tribe in the jungle, I would be the shaman, witch doctor, to come and see me if you have any problems. On the way here, someone asked me, well, no, it was yesterday actually, someone asked me, oh, you're doing this One Club gig? And I'm like, yes, and I proceeded to answer what is One Club. And I was like, oh, One Club is this, this safe space where, your professional success overlaps with your personal development and you come together and we do great things. And I was going on about it. He goes, no, but tell me how it feels. And I've never had a question like that when someone actually asked me, how does something like that feel? So I'm going to answer it. I didn't answer him at the time, but I now, on reflection, have an answer. And I wanted to share that with you through a story. What does it feel like to be part of One Club? So, here goes the story. Sometime in the future, I lived a good life. I was a good man. And then I died. And as my soul drifted to the lofts and entered the skies, I came across the pearly gates of heaven. And I was encountered by a wise old man who looked a bit like Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid. He was called the Grasshopper. The Grasshopper welcomed me and said, Afsal, you've been a good person. You've been a good man. You've done good things. You now have a place in heaven. And he showed me these great oak doors. And I said, I'm really curious, however, before I go there. And thank God I've got in. Thanks so much. But I'm really curious for one thing. What does hell look like? Get me to hell. Just a peek. I don't want to stay there, but I might have some mates there. It'll be really good to peek. So he said, well, for you, let's do that. And he showed me these great oak doors that stretched as high up to the celestial bodies. And I pushed through these oak doors, and there before me was a banqueting suite. And that stretched as far as the eye could see. And running central to the banqueting suite was a banqueting table running as far as the eye can see. And at every seat, there was served a bowl of hot, spicy noodles. Yum, yum. My favorite. But around them were decrepit, scrawny people screaming and wailing. Hungry. Each one of them, I noticed, however, had a 2-meter-long chopstick. And they're trying their best to get their chopstick into their noodles, but by the time they try to feed themselves, they'll slip off. And they'll be wailing and say, oh, feed us, we're so hungry. And I said to the Grasshopper, get me out of this hellhole, I can't stand it anymore. And he said, come on, let's get to heaven where you belong. So off I went to heaven, and I opened these great oak doors, and I entered paradise. And guess what? It was also a banqueting suite, as far as the eye could see. And central was a banqueting table, as far as the eye could see. And every table was served hot, spicy noodles, yum, yum, my favorite. But people there were so happy. People were smiling, people were jovial. They also had 2-meter-long chopsticks. But what were they doing? They would take their noodles and they'd feed each other. And all of a sudden, my mouth would be filled with noodles. Oh, that's great. Who's feeding me like that? And they're like, welcome, welcome to heaven. Now, the moral of the story is, let's feed each other. And that, I draw parallels to that. I draw parallels to One Club, because One Club is heaven. You're sitting in heaven. Also bring your own chopsticks. And bring your own chopsticks. 2 meter ones. So you can feed each other. People ask me, are you building a community? I'm like, nah. Is it a network? Kind of. Ecosystem? No, not really. What we're trying to build, with your help, is a church. It's a church where the belief system is, we believe in you. And we want you to believe in each other. It's not about what the club can do for you. It's what you can do for one club and everyone in it together. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We have music royalty in front of us. Unsung music legend, Patrick Allen, ladies and gentlemen. I've known Patrick now for a few years now. 5 or 6 years he's gone, right? It's amazing. I've got so many questions for you to share some of the deep, dark stories of some of the icons that we know. He's worked with Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Prince, Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse. The list kind of goes on and on. But I wanted to explore deconstructing some of these icons that we know. We know them superficially compared to someone who actually knows them quite personal. And you'll have to forgive some level of gossip in there. But oh my God, let's just go for it and share some of these stories. And what we're going to attempt to do is, if we deconstruct how celebrities get there, there is a lesson to be learned for us to apply to our own businesses. Yes? Let's do this! Patrick Allen! So.
What's up, y'all? Can I get a ooh, ooh? Ooh, ooh? Yes.
Excellent. So what's an American werewolf like you doing in London? How'd you end up here?
Well, this is where the work is now, so I'm here. But, work brought me here. I was on tour with the Drifters. But first, I came to visit Kat from Prince. Oh. And I went out singing at a big open mic night or whatever. And then the Drifters approached me, this lady named Faye Treadwell. And I was like, I thought the Drifters were dead. Because I had just done the Mickey Mouse Club. I used to choreograph one of the shows. And we did a tribute to the Drifters. So I assumed they were dead, you know. And unbeknownst to me, they were, a lot of the American groups from the 50s and 60s tour Europe all the time. But they go home, then nothing. When they come here, they can't walk down the street, or, you know. And so that's what brought me to the UK. Okay. And then I'm a dancer, singer, actor, or whatever. So wherever I live around the world, I start a jam session or live music night. And I started a big night here at the 10 Room with one of my business partners, John Altman. He wrote the score for Titanic and Little Boys and movies like that. And next thing you know, all my friends from America that were touring around the world, when they came to London, they would come down to the club.
Amazing.
And sometimes the big star would come with them if they were one of the dancers or one of the background singers. So we had people like Lionel Richie was a regular, The Roots. We had R. Kelly. The one time he took a boat to the UK. We don't talk about him anymore, though. And Will Smith.
Don't talk about him anymore.
No, talk about him anymore either. The Black Eyed Peas, will.i.am. I gave will.i.am his first job in Los Angeles.
Oh, what was that job that you gave?
No, since he was a kid. It was a movie called When the Party's Over with Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
And he played the little breakdancer graffiti artist.
That's
kid.
him?
Yeah.
Ah.
And his real name is Will Adams. So, and we used to have everybody. The Roots were my regulars there. And all the stars, Shaka Khan. I used to work with Shaka Khan. I was signed to Shaka Khan. She had a label called Retro Records, and I was the first artist they signed. This is in Los Angeles. But yeah, so that's what brought me to the UK.
Oh, yes.
And that's what kept me here. So being on tour with the Drifters at that time was the butthole of showbiz. We did 250 shows a year.
That's a lot.
200 were theaters around the UK. So imagine the buses and trucks, you know. And sometimes, yes, they would book us in Edinburgh, and the next day we're in Southampton. So it was a nightmare to finish the show, drive all night, and then check into the hotel that day because it's so far, and then only get a few hours sleep before you have to do sound check at the next venue. And but it was one of those. But it was worth it because every Monday I had my big live jam, and all the big stars coming down, and it put me on the map over here. So and then I mean, the kudos from doing an event like that is just unbelievable. You know.
When did you start? So let's go to the beginning. Not too far to the beginning, but I wanted to understand when you actually worked with some of the big names. I'm dying to ask you this question about working with Michael Jackson. I mean, he was a phenomena. There's nothing that I've seen so far that's, can copy or repeat what Michael was. But just to understand the personality, the person behind the scenes. And you were there. You were one of the dancers, choreographer. How did that start?
Well, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and when I was very young, I won a big TV show, dance competition. That got me out to Hollywood. And I did the moonwalk on television in 1982, the year before Michael did it. And it wasn't called the moonwalk, it was called the backslide. So Janet Jackson was in the audience that night. It's the first time I met Janet. And then a year later, my parents allowed me to move to Los Angeles, and because I have an auntie there and cousins there and all that. And I got approached by a huge management company. So next thing I know, I'm living in LA and doing all the dance work. My first job was with Whitney Houston. Penny Ford and I were on the show called Soul Train, and Whitney was on the show with us. It was her television debut. And I sat next to Whitney getting my makeup done, and she was so fine. I was like, damn. But I'm only like 16, and I'm like, I literally asked her to marry me. And she's like, oh, you're so cute. I'm like, I'm just so beautiful, Anyway, and then a few years later, I was doing the American Music Awards or the Grammys, one of them. And I'm doing the opening number, the dancing, and Whitney's in the front row. She's about to get a bunch of awards, and she's pointing at me. And she's with Robin, her girlfriend. People don't know she had a girlfriend. And they're pointing at me, and we came off stage, the dancers were all, Whitney's mad at you, bro. She's going to kill you. She's pointing at you the whole number. I was like, no, I know her, but she doesn't remember. So she came up to me backstage. It's like, Whitney Houston, excuse my language, in 1987 or whatever, when she was real prim and proper, she came up to me backstage. She goes, nigga, where I know you from? And I was like, I didn't know she was ghetto at the time. And that's what she was. She gave this really fake persona, but I was shocked. And I told her, Soul Train. She said, oh my God. But Bobby Brown was 10 feet away from us, and they didn't even speak. So I'm like, that whole marriage with Bobby Brown was an arranged marriage. But of course they had something in common, which was they had addictive personalities, I'll say. But yeah, that whole marriage was obviously arranged. But, and then I was working with a girl named Kat. You might remember her from Prince. And she was my dance partner. And we did a show called Star Search. And then Prince chose her to be in his band from there. And my flatmate was Andre Cleveland. He's the guy all through the 70s would walk Stevie Wonder out on stage. His dad was the Reverend James Cleveland. And so he was my flatmate with Grady Harrell. And Grady Harrell used to sing BVs for Stevie. And he played Sam Cooke in the Michael Jackson story I was telling my guy over there. Anyway, and so Grady said, Andre said, Patrick. I said, what? You want to dance with Michael Jackson? Excuse my voice. And I said, yeah. He goes, all right, we got a meeting tomorrow. And that's how I got the gig. So we went to MJJ Productions, met everybody, and I had to run auditions for like 800 street dancers. And it was really cool. But that took 2 days, and I had to do the routine. So I taught them a routine. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, up, down. Right, just popping routine, because Michael loves popping. And but street dancers aren't used to doing choreography. So I had to do it every time. We had to do a rehearsal, and then film. And I had to do it every single time. And Michael was just blown away because you must have done that routine 1,000 times. He said, thank you for your dedication. Da, 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 da. I'd love you to be part of the project. So that's how I got to work with Michael. And then we got to hang out. I wrote a screenplay. And while we were on the set, Michael, Dan, you mess up sometimes, you forget. And Michael said, shh, stop. He goes, listen, it's all about feel. If you mess up, don't worry. Just do something solo and get right back into the groove again, you know? Because just feel, he said, feel your way through, which was right out of my script. My movie was called Feel. It was about dancers. Because back then you had these jazz dancers, the street dance and stuff was starting to come out. And, you wanted to dance with execution and with feel, not stiffness, but, like with character. Boom, that kind of thing. As opposed to just, So anyway, I told Michael, I said, I'm writing a film right now called Feel. And I showed him the script. I said, you just said a line right out of the movie. And he was like, oh, what? So then I started meeting with Renita, one of his ghostwriters. And she also worked in production. You might have met Renita. And working on the script. And we'd meet Michael. When we finished Smooth Criminal, Moonwalker, we're doing the second unit stuff. And we get to go meet Michael and talk about the script and talk about scenes and that kind of thing. And an amazing story is one day I was in Westwood writing because I was so excited now. And the little girl from Smooth Criminal came up to me and said, hello. And I said, oh, what are you doing here? And this old man hit me on the head and said, Patawi, how are you? And just so you know, as a kid, myself and Eddie Garcia, my best friend, we had a handshake. Let me see. That went like this, and you point, snap, turn your hand this way, and you go, stay there. This, let go. Grab, slide, snap, Patawi. Right? And
I don't think I'll remember that.
So we would do that with Michael every day, and he called me Patawi. And so anyway, I said, he goes, Patawi, how are you? I was like, what? It was an old man. He had a fake beard, fake mustache, brown suit with a light shirt, brown tie, and a hat, right? And that was his disguise for him to go out in public on his own. And he drove a brown Pinto. And Bear was across the street. Some of the security guards were still around. But he's like, shh, it's me, Michael. I was like, no. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, they were shopping. And I said, I'm working on the movie, And we talked for a little bit. And he went on his way and continued shopping. And then about a month later, there was a TV show called like Hollywood Edition, whatever. And on this TV show, Michael got busted. He was at Sherman Oaks Galleria, and he liked to go to the gadget store and just look at gadgets, all the new technology that was coming out. But he was in there for 4 hours. So the lady behind the counter was like, she was freaking out because he looked really freaky. You imagine his nose, but behind the beard, and she was like wondering, why is this old guy looking in this case for 2 hours? So she called security. They arrested him, took him in the back. Current edition's a TV show. It's on YouTube. You can find it. And he's in this office with the security guard going, I'm Michael Jackson. And the guy's like, yeah, right, and I'm Stevie Wonder. He's, no, I'm Michael Jackson. And he takes off his thing and it's like, so it was all over the news. Anyway, but so and then you won't believe this. So a few weeks later, we're writing or whatever, and then all the red flags went up. All the phone numbers changed. I couldn't get anybody on the phone. I was like, what's going on? And so Renita called me and said, Michael got caught with pages from my scripts, unsolicited. He's not allowed to take anything unsolicited. At that time, he was in court maybe 40 days a year, and those are the days he had to be there, right? Because he's been sued by so many people. And so all the red flags went up, and I was like, what? And he wasn't allowed to work on the project anymore. He said he still wanted to. The next time I saw him was at the American Music Awards, some show. And it's amazing because he has all the bodyguards, right? And the crowd was all around him. He just won like 5 big awards. And I got to walk right through all the security right up to Michael. And we did the handshakes. Hello. And he said he apologized for what happened. And I know what happened. And because Frank DeLeo, his management, everybody was upset with him because he was taking unsolicited materials. And I'm like, well, I would never sue you. So, and no film ever came out that was like what we were writing or anything. So, and that was my experience with Michael in L.A. Then I moved to New York, and I got in a film, in a musical called Sisterella. And it turns out Michael casted me basically, and he was the producer of that show. And I was like, what? And it was Dick Scott Productions and Michael Jackson. Anyway, long story short, the next time I worked with Michael was in London for the concert series, and which never happened, unfortunately. Mark Summers, my agent, got a call, and so Michael needed a 50-piece children's choir and a drum corps section. So I was involved in putting that together, and then it all got canceled. Michael passed away, so very sad.
Amazing story. Amazing that you could amazing insight into the man. Moving on to another.
Oh, by the way, Michael Jackson was very obnoxious, very loud.
Aha.
His best friend was Marlon Brando's son, who you can see him in some new documentary that's coming out. But big, giant Mexican guy. People don't know that Marlon Brando was actually Mexican. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And his son was this big, giant Mexican guy. And Michael and him would just fight on the set. We're like, what are you doing? And he was obnoxious. And while it was 18 dancers and Michael just rehearsing every day. And Michael his head of security was Bill Bray. And Bill had big ears. Bill had been their security since Michael was little. So Michael would attack him and grab his ears because he had these big, giant ears. And I guess Michael used to attack him from when he was a kid. And Michael was not what people think. The reason why he spoke like this was because his vocal coach, Seth Riggs, said, you want to speak like this, you save your voice. So when we were with Michael during rehearsals, he was loud and obnoxious. But as soon as filming came, all of a sudden there's 200 crew. There's every day we had Elizabeth Taylor or Patrick Duffy or Corey Feldman, or all these big stars. Robert De Niro was there every day because Joe Pesci played Mr. Big. And they would come with their team. Bubbles was there. So Bubbles had he had a whole team that took care of him. There was a new grade school there. Every day was a grade school. And they were sitting in bleachers. They had people looking at them. You had second unit crew was there every day. And you had the documentary crew there every day. All the catering. So the first day of filming, Michael had 9 bodyguards. But when he was with us, he had none. It was the weirdest transition. And he was dressed to the 9. Suddenly. What? Not in just like you see Michael on TV how he's dressed. At rehearsals he was dressed kind of normal, It was weird. We were like, oh my gosh. Very, very amazing experience.
Amazing. Is anything similar between Michael Jackson and working with Prince? I thought Prince was a father I never had. I loved him. But I'd love to know a bit more if you any experience in back scenes working with Prince.
Nothing similar at all. Completely different ways of doing
Both of them were kind of, say they were inspired by James Brown. Their moves, their dance, their style. So I thought there was something there. But
I think the dance moves, but you could say Prince was more moved internally. Michael was more moved externally. So Prince was a protege, so he could play every instrument like better than the best person in the world. And Prince was not a nice person, Michael was a very
Don't
nice
say
person.
that.
Oh no, Prince was not a nice person. And I don't know where he developed that from, his father or, but Prince, you know, when his first band left him or whatever, Jesse, what's his name? Jesse, his guitar player from Purple Rain. Anyway, you know, Prince would call the radio station, if you play his music, you're not going to play mine. That kind of thing. And Kat, when she was with him, she told me tons of horror stories. But at the same time, he was a good guy covertly. He always gave to charities. He always did these amazing things. But I don't know if he was afraid of competition or what. And, but musically, he was just different. He was a genius. Like they did Love Sexy in one weekend.
Whoa.
He woke the band up.
What, the whole album?
Yeah. They would stay at Paisley Park. He woke everybody up, had them come to the studio, and he went into his vault and he brought up these songs. And they finished them there, and they released it by Monday.
Crazy.
It's incredible. And so Prince worked completely different than Michael, you know. And the first time I worked for Prince, we had won this TV show, Star Search, and we got invited to perform for him at his birthday party. And that's where he asked Kat to be a new member in his band. And every time I was with Prince, he never looked me in the eye. Like, say you're me. Kat would say, Prince, aren't you going to say hi to Patrick? We're at the same table. Hey, like, I'm Prince. He goes, hi, Patrick.
So rude.
Never looked at me in the eye, ever. But then I'd be on the phone with Kat, and I'd hear Prince say, tell Patrick he's my favorite male dancer. I'm like, oh, so he does like me. Oh, okay. But I was never allowed to go to Paisley Park. But at the same time, Prince debuted a few of his records at my club night. Really? Prince comes down. You know, you need another lover like you needed a hole in your head. Anybody remember that song? No?
Well, no Prince stands here. Oh, Vicky! Thank you.
But yeah, my club's first place he played it. I believe Housequake or whatever that song was called as well. Because my nights had all the dancers from L.A. So he wanted to be around that, I guess. And then didn't see him. Well, and he stole my musicians back then as well, which is a compliment. And then, then Kat and I used to dance at this club called Vertigo, which became Glam Slam. So whenever they came to town, Kat and I would do a show. And of course, Prince is there. I've lost 2 girlfriends to him. Well, 3 including Kat. Yeah, my girlfriend.
I'm so sorry.
Well, she was called Divinity, and she dated Mickey Free. Mickey Free looks just like Prince. He idolized Prince. But Mickey Free was Prince's favorite guitar player. So they would hang out. And Mickey was dating Divinity, who looked kind of like Apollonia. And Mickey Free told Prince, you'll never meet her. You'll never get to speak to her, ever. And because he was taunting Prince because she's so beautiful. And Prince said, So, years later, I'm dating her now. And I get to, and all she ever talked about was Kat and Prince, right? So that's the warning sign. I get to the club, and Kat said, your girlfriend just had sex with Prince on the floor of his limousine, and she's on the way to Minneapolis right now. I was like, what? And sure enough,
man.
And about 3 months later, she came back. 6 months later. Oh, you don't think I'm a slut, do you? I'm like, I'm so stupid. I'm like 18. Oh no, it's okay, it's okay. And then so she sat down with her girlfriends to have dinner with me and my mates, and my friends were like, Pat, we're not buying her food, Pat. They're paying for themselves. And next thing you know, we're gonna go to the toilet. Never came back.
Oh.
My friends were like, Patrick, I'm not paying for it. I don't know, whatever. And then I bumped into her. She's like, oh, just take care of it. I'll pay you back next week. I was like, wow, man.
Heartbreak.
Just did me wrong. Right?
Oh.
And I mean, the situations like this happened. And I was with another girl named Lori, and she was the most beautiful girl.
We'll stop there because it sounds like we need to go into therapy session, and that's different.
Well, anyway, no. So Prince, the last time I saw him was in London. I had a big night at Peak Al Club. I opened it up with a guy named Mike Phillips, who's Prince's saxophone player, and Stevie Wonder sax, and Michael Jackson sax player. And I opened a club called Pigalle Club, launched the night there, and Prince was there the first 3 weeks. And I got to speak to him, and we talked about Kat, because he hadn't seen her for years. And it was very nice. And I stopped him like this, shake my hand. Prince, it's Patrick. Pull away. Prince, it's Patrick. We didn't do that. And he looked me in the eye, first time ever. And I said, how are you? He goes, I know. And I said, have you seen Kat? He goes, no, have you? I said, well, I speak to her on Facebook. She's doing pretty good. He goes, oh, please tell her I said hi. I said, okay, man. I said, it's really good to see you. It's good to see you, too, he said. And he left. And the security guard didn't do nothing because he knew who I was, right? And Prince came back 2 more weeks. And my guys got to open up for him in the after show. I got to sing. And so, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing guy. So, I mean, you know, people have to, in Hollywood, like you'll find out like how Prince had to become the symbol because they owned his name. So he had to protect himself. And I think that's what he was doing. It's not that he was a mean guy, but he had to take charge because he's tiny. And, yeah, but he's a musical genius.
Amazing.
One of my favorite artists ever.
I wanted to move on to a couple more artists before we dissect them all in one go. How about Amy? Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, Amy was the best. I started that
We
night.
lost her too early. We lost her definitely. But what was she like as a... I guess you started mentoring her as a teenager.
No, not a teenager. Well, I don't know how old she was, actually. But before Frank, while she was recording Frank, she was one of my regular singers every Monday at the 10 Room. Did you ever come to the 10 Room? 10 Room, anyone? And so a lot of people met her there with me. And she would get up and on a song, like we're doing, Ain't Nobody Love Me Better, excuse my voice. And she would give her the mic and she'd be like, and it ain't nobody love me better, make me happy, make me completely different vibe to the, and it was really cool. And everybody liked her, and you know, we knew she was a great songwriter and a big talent. But she was a regular every Monday. She loved all the band. Her first band was my band from Tin Room. Matter of fact, her main band forever, actually. She met her background singer, Zalon, and those guys through the night. And she became the biggest star in the world. And then the next time I got to work with her, because you don't want me to say negative stuff. I'm telling you just the truth. We sent her to a gig in Greece, and this is the first time. But what happened was, as soon as she got there, they started giving her drinks.
Oh.
And then she passes out, can't even do the show. And that's the first time, because I worked in a documentary, and the director's like, we think that's the first time that ever happened with her. And I was like, really? Wow. And they call those the missing years while she was at the Tin Room. But then I saw her after she became the biggest star in the world. I produced a show for her goddaughter, and it was my Motown show. I put her goddaughter in the show. So Amy came and got on stage with us, and it was the most surreal moment. It was the Barclays Square Ball. Some of the biggest names in the world were there, including the Prince or the now King, and just big Hollywood stars, movie stars. And when Amy came on stage, no one had seen her since she'd become anorexic. It's unbelievable what happened. We come out on stage, we're singing the opening number, introduce Dion. Well, Amy, and I let Amy introduce her. The entire audience got up out of their seats like it was like there was a disaster coming. And they ran to the stage, women in their $5,000 dresses, and slipping, to get to the edge, to gawk at Amy Winehouse. Nobody had seen her in that state yet, in public. And I'm looking at this little girl, Dion, singing her song. Imagine this moment. The stage is here. Every eye is looking at Amy. The cameras were all looking at Amy. And this little girl on her debut is singing. Nobody's watching her. They're just gawking. I mean, gawking. It was like primitive beings. They lost their marbles. and they got caught gawking and behaving like humans are not supposed to behave. And I was just like in shock that they would, you know what I mean? And that was such a surreal moment. And then, I can't tell you what happened outside afterwards when she was leaving. You wouldn't believe what happened. And there's a couple of stories.
I had to filter it, everyone.
Gosh, there's some stories that if I told you, you'd be like, what? You probably know one or two of them, but the other story, because you're filming too. But anyway, yeah, so, I know like the beautiful stories and the horror stories of a lot of these artists, and that I was fortunate to be working with or
Excellent.
hanging out with. But but make some noise for Amy Winehouse, come on.
Yeah.
Make some noise for Prince, come on. Make some noise for Michael, come on. Make some noise for Whitney, what? Come on.
Excellent.
Yeah, man, just crazy.
I recall you speaking to me about some of the younger ones, Britney, Christina, Usher, Justin, and Beyonce. How did you meet them? They were so young. How old were they when you?
I'd say between 9 and 14 or whatever. I used to run a TV show called Star Search in America. That's the show that Kat and I were on. And after I won the TV show as a kid, I got approached by this show. It wasn't quite old enough, so I put the first $100,000 winner dance act on the show. Then they were like, oh, can you bring us more? So I brought them more dancers and singers because I was a singer. And then I would put 4 dance groups on, and all 4 would be in the semifinals, which means the 2 in the finals are mine as well.
Yeah, you do something right.
Yeah, and then the kids as well, singers as well. So then they asked me to work on the show. I was like, okay. And then we were doing kids, and that doesn't sound right. We were also putting on the kids. And during my tenure, I put on Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, and Girls Time. I mean, I got called in about Beyonce because her group Girls Time were rapping and singing, and they were like, will this work on TV? I'm like, I had to tell my producers, listen, this is the reality of what's happening today. This is selling millions and millions of records. They're in the top of the charts, and you're still putting balladeers on like it's the 80s. I'm like, it's not the 80s anymore, And so they agreed, and they put Beyonce's Girls Time on. And on the show, Beyonce went up to the host, and the host said, so we hear that you like one of our alumni. And Beyonce said, yes, we love Pat and Kat because we love it when Kat does the cat scat. And Beyonce did the cat scat. Now, Beyonce is known for that move, right? Well, Kat, my partner Kat, she does the cat scat like nobody else. Anyway, she became famous on our show for this move, and we had to give it a name, so we just came up with cat scat in like 2 minutes. We had like 2 minutes to make a name up. And after we did, everybody said, what's that dance called? She said, it's the cat scat. She did it. Then, oh my gosh, every high school in America, the cheerleader team would call out, cat scat. And they would do the dance, and it became iconic. And of course, Beyonce was influenced by that. And it's just amazing to think, wow, who would know that Beyonce would become Beyonce? Who would know that Justin Timberlake would become Justin Timberlake? Or Christina Aguilera would become, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And then Billy Porter as well, who's huge now. He's in the West End right now. He hosted the Olivier Awards yesterday. And Billy Porter, I got called in because he's from New York. And my producer in L.A., the guy who created the show is Al Mancini in New York. And he would put his artist on the show. And so Sam Riddle called me in. And he's like, what do you think of this guy? And I was like, that guy's going to win the whole show. I go, put hands down. Nobody can beat this guy. And he goes, you sure? I said, yeah, definitely. You need to put this guy on, man. And so they put him on, and Billy Porter won $100,000 like that.
Amazing, amazing. Great. There's so many other artists we could talk about.
Jessie J.
Jessie J. Okay, well, we'll squeeze in Jessie J.
Yeah, Jessie J is one of my favorites. She's amazing. But she was with a really cool management company, and this guy who was managing her could do anything. He would get his artists on TV commercials and what do you call it now? It's called sync licensing deals. Before people were really doing it, you know. And then he brought me Jesse. He sent me a videotape of Jesse singing a song called The White Room. What do you think about her? Can we do anything with her? Can you do anything? I was like, are you kidding me? I go, don't you see? It's like, you know, he was anointed to receive these artists, but he didn't realize what he had. I'm like, bro, I told him, I said, my band will do anything she wants. Because, you know, musicians are very fickle people. If you're a terrible artist, I don't play that song, whatever. You got to pay me then. For her, they were like, we'll do anything. No. And so Jessie J started hosting my show with me. I mean, after like 1 week, I'm like, you can host with me. She had such a big personality, you know. And I had to teach her how to work a band, how this means stop, don't do this. You don't do that, right? And just all the keys, bridge and all that kind of stuff. And I had to teach her that, listen, if you want to go to the chorus again, you just go chorus. If you want to go back to the bridge or to the top, you go one or do like this, right? And because a lot of singers kind of get mad at the band. Well, they're not a record, they're human beings, you know, if you don't give them direction. And anyway, so Jessie just killed it, man. And unbelievable, you won't believe this. You see, you get these artists once in a blue moon where after a couple of weeks, everyone's heard. Now everybody's queuing outside to come in to see this girl. And I couldn't believe the record companies that were coming in. Matt Goss, I came one of them, what are you doing here? You don't go out. He goes, I'm here to see that girl everybody's talking about. Without even them all inviting him down, right? And anyway, long story short, and like the black girls, some of my singers from LCGC and all that, they would sit upstairs. They heard her sing, they came downstairs to throw napkins at her. Girl, we sing it like that. In America, what we do is we throw money at you. Here they throw their napkins at you. But yeah, it was Jessie J. I mean, and one day I was teasing her. I was like, so I'm going to put you to the test. And I gave her some songs from like the 80s or whatever. And then I said, okay, wait. I said, I have nothing. I said, Asha, she goes, how did you know? I'm like, I did it. I can't wait to hear this. She is from Essex. And not her sound or whatever, but her performance and everything. She could have been a young Whitney Houston. It was so phenomenal. We were like, you're from Essex. You're 16.
What's wrong with that?
17 years old. How is this coming out of you, right? We were like, what? And, you know, that guy, her manager, had her in a group with 5 other girls, hidden, singing one line like they do in the boy bands or girl bands. I was like, bro, no, you need to be able to see that you have something special, you know? But anyway, so she got a deal with, what's the name of the label? Anyway, a label that Tom Jones was on. And this guy named Guy Holmes was amazing. And he realized the label was going to go bankrupt, so he let her out of her deal. Nobody does that. She would still be in litigation today. Nobody does that. This guy, Guy Holmes, the best record guy I've ever met, ever, hands down. And then also, he's the guy that got her record deal. She flew over with her manager to New York, but he set it up. Guy Holmes set it up. And they gave her, she wanted $1 million or £500,000. London wouldn't give her £500,000, so she took the Universal Republic deal, and the rest is history. And matter of fact, she's a legitimate artist because they didn't know what to do with her. Something happened. I won't go into all the drama. And so Miley Cyrus heard a song she wrote called Party in the USA. Now, once you're signed, they own everything you write. And Miley Cyrus has power. She's Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
And became Miley Cyrus. And her dad is Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah.
She's got power. She said, I want that song. That song went straight to #1. Her album was done already. And she did that song. And they're like, party this, you know. She says, no. I'm coming from Nashville to L.A. You don't hear Jay-Z on the radio in Nashville, but you hear him on the, that kind of
I'm
thing.
coming from Essex.
Well, Jesse was coming from the UK to LA, But so it worked. They said, okay. So Miley Cyrus did that song, went straight to number one. Suddenly, everybody wanted to know who this girl is, Jessie J, who wrote that song. And, yeah, man.
Powerful.
And then she did the Olympics as well.
So, with all those personalities that you've met, very delicate personalities.
Very, yeah.
What I was interested in was, once you deconstruct them, why aren't we superstars? Like, what does it take for us to actually be on stage like them? What do they have that we don't have here? What is that secret ingredient that makes them who they are? That X factor. What would you say those are? You've seen so many. What's that common thing between them?
It's something internal that they're born with, and it's something that they walk into a room and everybody just looks. Some people have that ability, and a lot of people have it that don't become famous, because then it's opportunity meets preparation. If you're prepared, right? And sometimes you're so talented you don't have to be prepared. Like certain actresses, like Juliette Lewis, that's just her, and that's Jessie, that's Amy. Like, they just have this thing that and then when you get signed to a record label, before they sign you, every department has to say yes. And so they finally say yes, so you get signed. If one department doesn't like you, if you offend them, marketing and promotion, they give all the marketing and promotion to the person next to you who's on the same label. You don't get it. They accidentally, I booked her on the TV show. Oh, I didn't book her. Oh, all these little accidents. So you don't get any TV work or whatever. All those departments have their own head of that department. So anyway, so for Jessie, for Amy, those guys to rise to the top, every department had to like them and continue to like them and want to push them. And so they just have that thing, that X Factor that you just cannot deny. The problem with TV shows like X Factor and the Idol shows and all that, The Voice, all that, they tell so much of your story in a matter of 6 weeks that there's no mystery left. Well, Madonna has been mysterious for 30 years, right? So that's the problem that's why I think those shows didn't have big stars, except the boy bands. Look at the boy bands, because now you have 5 guys. You can't cover every one of their stories, right? And then you have a girl for every guy, fans for every guy, right? And then so they're able to still be mysterious and make it. And then each guy has 7 billion fans each, that kind of thing. But I think that's the problem with those shows. But those shows do make you a consummate professional. They push you into that world, and then also some of them are one-hit wonders. But
as well as exceptional talent that they're born with, what else is it that gets them there compared?
Well, some don't have exceptional talent. They just have exceptional presence, which makes you a star, and they have something that people just can't take their eyes off of, and people want to learn more and see more, and but it's something that you all know. You all know someone with that X factor within your family or within your social group. You all know someone with the X factor. A lot of people hate them because these people don't even have to try, and they seem to just get elevated and promoted and elevated. You're like, what? How is this possible? You didn't even study at the school I studied at, and then you can write with so much more conviction and so much more originality and depth than I can write with. You know what I mean? So just all those things that just they're geniuses. They're just artistic geniuses, really.
And they all have this. When I look at them also, you did mention they have a certain level of professionalism, discipline, I think.
Well, yeah, and then there's the whole discipline thing. Now, the thing is, discipline can also be innate because it's your goal. It's what you eat, sleep, drink, and breathe. So you might look as disciplined as the guy that went to Harvard or whatever, but you're not in the same way, but you're always there on time. You can write in 5 minutes what takes them 5 years to write. You know what I mean? So, and discipline along, like Cynthia Erivo, I work with Cynthia Erivo. I got some crazy stories about her. And but I was telling you, when I was working with her, it was before RADA. And she told me, Patrick, I'm going to RADA. I'm the only black girl chosen. And I was like, congratulations. And 4 years later, here comes Cynthia Erivo, like this. Boom. Right? Discipline, training, skills, honed, prepped, prepared, ready to go. And to be a chameleon, what do you want me to play now? Right? So she was able to go and train and get all these skills because she could sing like she does now back then.
Oh, amazing.
But she didn't have the presence, you know. But that's a different kind of presence. That's what you call legit, right? She can also be a pop star presence. But if you notice, you never see the pop star thing with her. It's always forward. It's always extrovert, right? It's always stage. But she can do that like Barbra Streisand and still feel like it's natural, right? But she doesn't look like she's natural because she's lifted all the time. Whereas a pop star is, they're sitting here. And a lot of pop stars and rock stars are self-indulgent. They're giving it to you from here. They don't need to give it to you from here. That's a complete different ball game. But that's why Cynthia is not a pop star. But she's a thespian. She's an Academy Award nominated actress, songwriter. She will have an EGOT, I believe, because they just keep pushing her in these roles. Now her new role is just unbelievable. She's about to play. She's doing Jesus Christ Superstar, playing Jesus as a black lesbian female.
Ooh.
That's going to cause a lot of problems in the world. But yeah, she's taking that role on, so everybody's pretty shocked about it. But anyway, so there's a difference, you know.
Great. Thank you so much, Patrick, for all of those. Then I'm going to open it out to the audience for some questions. Anyone has any some burning questions they want to ask? Maybe it's how to be a pop star.
I haven't got a question. I'm waiting to pass.
What's your dirty music secret in terms of a style that you like that would surprise us?
Oh, well, I'm now a gospel singer, so that might surprise you. But I don't have any dirty secrets, but
You just said loads of dirty secrets.
I said I don't have any.
The actual style of music, you know, do you like prog rock in the 70s or something?
No, I was a funk guy. My sister used to sneak me into. She was supposed to be babysitting me, and she would sneak me into certain concerts, like Parliament Funkadelic. I saw, P-Funk All-Stars with Bootsy Collins and these guys, and it really influenced me. Like, I'm a funk guy, and blues, I guess blues as well. So in the world of R&B, because my family were musical, I've got this kind of like, Alexandra Burke from X Factor, how she came across like she was 30, not like she was 16. The same thing with me. I had all these roots of R&B and of blues, because my mom and dad met at the Gaslight Square. That's where Tina Turner met Ike in St. Louis, Missouri. And so my mom was an opera singer, gospel opera. My mom came up with Grace Bumbry, the first black opera star. But Grace Bumbry got the scholarship. My mom got first runner-up or whatever. And then my dad was a boogie piano man. My dad's white, my mom's black. So that's the other thing. Growing up in the 60s and 70s with the racism at the time, being mixed race. And I never knew I was mixed race until somebody told me in kindergarten. I was like, what does that mean? What? So I believe it's just the blues and also Southern rock. I love Southern rock, the Allman Brothers, that kind of thing. But people don't know that at all. But you can hear my temperament when I'm singing. It's more of a blues edge.
Anyone else with a question? Cathedra.
Sorry, this might be a little bit intense, but with the career that you've had, what's a small moment in your life that had a big impact on who you are today?
I'd say Donny Hathaway and Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because my experience with Stevie was my sister made me learn the entire album of Songs in the Key of Life. And then and I got to hang out with Stevie a few times. I saw Stevie Wonder drive a car. And yeah, and it was I saw Stevie Wonder drive a car.
Like for real?
Yeah. But it was in the parking lot, and Andre Cleveland was sitting next to him. And they would just go from one end of the parking lot to the next. That was it. But yeah, I saw that, and I saw Stevie Wonder at Stan Getz' last concert. Who knows Stan Getz? Anybody? What? Stan Getz was a trumpet player. Anyway, it was his last concert, and Sid Charisse was there before she passed. Sid Caesar. I mean, some big names. And Stevie Wonder was in the audience, and so was Diane Shure. Diane Shure is the blind lady who sings. She's got like a 7.5 octave range. Incredible. Anyway, so Stan Getz called them up together, and I saw Stevie Wonder and Diane Shure battle it out on stage for an hour. And every time I see Stevie, I'm like, Stevie, you know they recorded that live show that night, and I know that that duet has been recorded. You got to get that and release it, man. He's like, I know. I don't know where it is, but you're right. That would, oh my God, that was a moment in time, you know. And but then Stevie Wonder, my flatmate Andre Harrell, was the guy who used to walk him on stage. So one day I get a phone call on my phone because I had a speakerphone, and it was Stevie Wonder looking for Andre. So I put Andre on the phone. And then Stevie was doing the Academy Awards that night, and he was going to be singing a song when he, I guess he was presenting an award or something. And he sang the song on my phone that he was going to sing that night. I was like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. And then every time he comes to London, I throw a big party for him and the band at different venues around London. So,
Really want that as your ringtone.
yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, may I ask a question? Patrick, you took so many young people and put them into the spotlight, kind of like ushered them towards fame. And I'm curious about what advice you gave them to help prepare them for those moments and like the life-altering journey they were entering into, and also what you might say to someone today.
Well, most of them were exceptional talents, so I basically just nurtured their talent, gave them a platform, and allowed them to get discovered. I've never had anybody under contract or anything. Everybody says, well, if you work with Amy, why aren't you making some money off of her or this person or that? Well, because I'm an artist too. And in Los Angeles, they really had showcase nights where you couldn't perform unless you signed. And nobody's going to do that. Singing at a showcase. So a lot of people would back out of the shows, obviously. I never did. I never did one of those showcases where they want you to sign something. And so I knew I could never do that to the artist. And my calling is to be a manager, really. I've had people stop me on the street, psychics, and tell me, oh, you work good with young people, with artists. You're going to be a manager, or you are a manager. I had someone in the Grauman Theater. Imagine how big that place is, 3,000 seats. Sat down. It was during the afternoon when they did kung fu movies. Someone was already sitting in front. This lady turned around and said, you're a manager. You're going to manage a lot of people and make them famous. I'm like, what? And I was with my friend Gerardo, who I helped him with his career. And it was just amazing. But so I nurtured them, give them a place to go. But like I might have to show them how to work a band and that kind of thing, or teach them to save their voice. If they're doing 10 songs, you can't sing 10 songs full out all 10. You know, that's why Whitney Houston lost her voice. She wouldn't do a medley. You know, because when you're famous, you have to sing all your hits, but the last song has to be your current hit. You got to be able to sing that like it's on the record, right? So after doing a whole show, you got to sing that now. But people like Michael Jackson had a synclavier on stage before, that was in the 80s. And the synclavier, if he stopped singing, the computer would continue singing. You wouldn't know it. He would just be lip syncing. You would never know it. Janet does that today. A lot of people do that today. And you have to choreograph if you're doing dancing. You've got to choreograph the entire show so that when Janet does do a dance solo, or a whole routine. She walks off. She goes backstage, takes her coat off, then puts a new coat on, and catches her breath as you see. She's featuring the dancers out front. You don't realize she's even gone. Or there's a guitar solo. She has time to go out, change her outfit, come back on, and she's not out of breath anymore. So you have to style everything and choreograph it accordingly. But what I do tell artists today is, in my opinion, you've seen what's happened with the P. Diddy and all the peripheral that were involved, right? And Harvey Weinstein and all that. I tell my artists now, listen, there's a new dawn of a new day. The magnifying glass is on Hollywood. Hollywood is no more. The music business is no more. There's a lot of things that are no more, right, as you guys know. And you can keep supporting it if you want to, but you cannot go out there flashing and teaching all these little kids to be over-sexualized. Have some integrity. Be a good example. I tell them now that I'm like, listen, I'm not playing with you. You know, you go sign this big deal. And now, see, because now we're at that last few years, and we just don't, I'm like, listen. So that's what I try to tell people, you know, have respect for yourself. Don't sell your soul. Don't give them everything that they want. You know what I mean? And because we need some strong examples nowadays, you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to cut it short now. I want to thank you, Patrick, for giving us amazing insights. This doesn't stop now. We're going to continue the night in Knightsbridge at a secret bar. I think we've given you the address. But Patrick is performing tonight. He runs Music Box Live. And it's a R&B jam live mic night every Monday. In a basement somewhere near Harrods in Knightsbridge, and we're gonna head over there tonight, and he's gonna rush out. So I wanted to close up so everyone, if you need to have a couple of questions. But some of us are going tonight. How many of us are joining? Yes, good. And then I think tonight we've got a few special guests.
Usher is in town, so I've got his two main background singers singing tonight. They're co-hosting with me. A guy named Gene Noble. If you look him up on Instagram, you're going to go, what? One of the best singers in the world. And Allie Caldwell, who won The Four, a TV show called The Four in America. Phenomenal singer. She's on tour with Usher as well. And I believe all the dancers are coming. They came last week. We had a battle. It was amazing. And I believe the band are coming as well. And I don't know if Usher's coming or not, but, you know, who knows? He might turn up.
Could you give a sample of what to expect tonight?
What, sing, you mean?
Yeah, maybe.
No way.
I tried.
Well, no, because I
tried.
Today I've had hay fever, which brings on asthma. You hear my voice, speaking voice.
Excuses.
So.
Just excuses, Patrick.
But I can maybe do something. I'll do something with my high end, maybe. You want to hear something? Oh, God, I hope it sounds good.
Get a drink.
This is a man's world. This is a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman. Oh, girl. I know it sounds muffled, but
Amazing. Thank you.